be rendered aloud for the third end of the week statement. You have the floor, sir.
Honorable Speaker, sir, this morning I rise to speak on the government's initiative to do away tests and exams for years 1 to 3. Mr. Speaker, sir, exams in early primary school has been experienced by all of us in this House. How we coped and reacted to this is an individual experience. The degree of likeness and dreadfulness to sit for media or annual exams in the early school days have imprinted some anxious and nervous depictions in our minds. Our school system demands a satisfactory score in standardized tests to constitute a pass. However, administering these tests in early primary schools, especially in grades 1 to 3, has put many young and developing minds through lots of pressure and agony. The burden of increasing test scores in maths and science has inevitably drawn away the fun to learn and progress. Tests and exams in early primary schooling has subjected young minds to the methods of memorizing lessons and discouraged a child's creative impetus. The world-known Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget has categorized children of early primary school into late pre-operational and much into concrete operational cognitive development stage. At this early learning stage, children are getting better with language and thinking. However, they still tend to think about things in very concrete terms. Thus, loading them with homework, tests and exams effectively withdraws the excitement and time to learn new concepts. Mr. Speaker, sir, the stigma associated with not performing well in early school days have undoubtedly forced the slow learners to abstain from school and eventually drop out of the formal education sector. These children may have the untapped potential to excel in fields of interest, but the loads of tests and exams force them away from realizing their dreams. Mr. Speaker, sir, removing exams for the young ones would become the game changer for the education system and its future. Removal of thematic teaching and introduction of civic and moral values would inculcate everlasting good virtues in the young minds who would later take the nation to the desired achievement level. Education with right thoughts, words and attitude will give more success to our future generations. It is high time we become realistic and genuine towards the education of our citizens. I have heard lobbyists harping on removing exams would dilute the education system, but may I remind them that Finland has completely revolutionized their education system, outranking USA. Finland has no standardized tests but a voluntary test for students at the end of an upper secondary school. The education system in Finland allows students autonomy and encourage creative play instead of putting students in a competitive race for top grades. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, our education system demands a test and exam-based learning starting from early primary school. Standardized testing is the blanket way we test for subject comprehension. While immersed with this, it is inadvertently takes away the components of happy, harmonious and healthy student and learning environment. What often happens is that students will learn to cram just to pass a test, and teachers will be teaching with the sole purpose of students passing a test. Creative learning is unintentionally diluted and possibly distanced. Removing mandatory tests and exams for grades 1 to 3 would give more time to focus on rudimentary lessons on arts and crafts, food and health, music and physical education. This does not mean that the basic tenets of literacy and numeracy are ignored. The early primary schools should focus on these and help develop the young minds for more advanced primary schooling, more open learning, where children are subjected to independent and interest-guided learning should be encouraged with the grading system set by a teacher to monitor the progress. These all are achievable and the present curriculum should be revisited to adopt changes to make room for more interactive learning with no formal assessment. Mr. Speaker, sir, this government, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, began the education revolution in this country with the introduction of free education for primary and secondary schools, subsidized transport and other assistance to students, and gave unprecedented access to tertiary education with the Tertiary Loan Scheme and National Topper Scheme. This government will continue to ensure that every child receives primary and secondary education fully paid by the government. Not only that, the government encourages children of school age to be in schools. With these words, Mr. Speaker, sir, I strongly support PGF's government's initiative to reform early primary school education, removing tests and exams for years 1 to 3. This would make going to school more fun and exciting. Thank you, sir.
I thank the honourable member for his end of the week statement, and I now call on the Minister for Education, Heritage and Arts and Local Government, the Honourable Pramila Kumar, for her response. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank Honourable Virendra Lal for his statement, which I fully support, and I would like to add further to what he has said. Mr. Speaker, sir, from 2022 academic year, schools will no longer conduct exams for years 1 to 3. The current examination system distorts curriculum intentions and kills innovative teaching and encourages rote learning. This must change to create room for critical thinking and analytical mind. Mr. Speaker, sir, students need to demonstrate a range of skills and qualities such as problem solving, teamwork, communication, initiatives, and flexibility. The outcome of education is no longer simply acquisition of knowledge, which is readily available. It is about exploring ideas. Without ideas, there is no creativity, and without creativity, there is no innovation. In a 37-week school year, students from years 1 to 13 have been sitting for term exams. In total, there are 3 term exams, and some schools can have up to 2 mid-term exams in addition to this. There is a constant pressure on teachers to cover the curriculum and conduct revisions and exams. What is taught to our children are facts which they must rote learn because it can be tested in the exam. A child's educational journey should be an enjoyable one. Learning should be fun so they become lifelong learners. It is therefore critical that we create learners who are interested in learning and are able to learn on their own. Mr. Speaker, sir, a teacher-centered teaching will take us nowhere. At least in the 21st century, we must change the teaching style from teacher-centered to child-centered. The emphasis needs to be changed to one that values process over content and understanding over rote learning. Mr. Speaker, sir, children learn more in the early years than at any other time in their life. It is crucial that these early learning experiences are positive and appropriate to their age and not an imitation of the formal school system. In fact, students at such an early age deserve more time for inquiry-based learning and learning through games and activities. There is a need to move away from an examination system that stresses the concept of passing and failing and putting very young children in a hierarchical order from smart, intelligent students to weak or poor students. Mr. Speaker, sir, such practice affects the self-esteem of lower achieving students, and it can make it harder to convince them that they can succeed in life. At such young age, it can reduce their motivation for learning, and gradually they drop out of school. And also, Mr. Speaker, sir, in our community, and it's something that is often practiced in our society, that we tend to compare our children's result with our neighbors, with our family, and that puts added pressure to the young ones. Mr. Speaker, sir, improvements at the lower primary level will mean that children will accomplish more at secondary level. A strong foundation in learning at this level yields high returns throughout life. Examination-oriented approach does not address the acquisition of practical skills, values, and attitudes in young learners. It does not encourage high-order skills such as critical and analytical skills. Mr. Speaker, sir, education superstar globally is Singapore's school system. Without exams, the primary school learning is designed to build a strong educational foundation for children. The focus is the development of problem-solving skills, building character, nurturing sound values, and good habits. The Education Commission Report 2000 clearly states, and I quote, "Many submissions to the 2000 Commission from stakeholder groups and the public at large were highly critical of the lack of creativity in the teaching and learning programs of primary schools and the extent to which the testing and examination system prevents this occurring," unquote. It also states that for teachers, coverage of curriculum becomes the key task, rather than development of conceptual understanding using methods of inquiry and problem solving. Mr. Speaker, sir, removing exams does not mean students will not be assessed. We need to introduce a variety of other assessment methods and procedures capable of producing a range of valued learning outcomes. This can take place in many forms, including in-class discussions, quizzes, group work, reflections. These are highly effective because students get direct feedback to improve. Mr. Speaker, sir, by removing exams at these early stages of learning, we will expose students to discover their very own interest and talents. The recent launch of the revised literacy and numeracy curriculum focuses on the enhancement of inquiry-based learning, which is appropriate as it will complement the non-examination atmosphere in the classrooms. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Fiji Head Teachers Association fully supports the Ministry's decision to remove exams for years 1 to 3. The President of the Fiji Head Teachers Association said, and I quote, "Any educator with right mind should support this new call because this will allow teachers to spend more time on learning and teaching rather than preparing students for examinations, particularly at this early stage. It is high time that we need to be realistic and be genuine when it comes to the education of our young ones," unquote. Mr. Speaker, sir, we aim to develop our children holistically with a range of skills and develop in them civic pride, the very core values that define the character of a person. Mr. Speaker, sir, assessment methods have a strong influence over what teachers teach and what and how students learn. We need to move away from pencil and paper test that upholds concepts of pass and fail. Putting children in the rank of first, second, third, etc. will not build a strong foundation for lifelong learning as required in the 21st century. Mr. Speaker, sir, this change has been brought about based on the consultation that we had and also the recommendation made in the Education Commission Report 2000. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
I thank the Honourable Minister for her response to the third end of the week statement. We move on to the next and final statement of the week. And I call on the Honourable Selai Andi Maitonga to deliver her end of the week statement. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, sir. Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Leader of Opposition, Honourable Members of Parliament. I rise this afternoon to speak on the end of the week statement under my name on the subject